you how little tips and tricks you can use on PowerPoint to make your presentation more accessible to your students that may be blind or otherwise. So for these PowerPoints, the most important thing to start with, and it's very simple, whenever you make these PowerPoints, you should always use the automatically provided tools for you, because when students that are blind read a screen recording software, the software reads the code that's embedded in these PowerPoints. So when it's very important to use the pre-made slides. So if I wanted to add a new slide here, I would go to Home, and then I would add a slide. And then when I add a slide, I would pick from one of these templates, and I wouldn't change the template. So I wouldn't choose this template and then make it into a information slide. So I've been choosing these for this PowerPoint because it's set up for the screen recorder to read properly. Don't just go, select a title slide and then add in text box, because the screen reading won't recognize those text boxes like they're supposed to, because it's not coded specifically for that. So you want to pick a slide that, like this one, where you're going to put information on one side and a picture on the other, or if you know you're only doing information, something like this, and then it's coded specifically to read to those students. So I'm just going to cancel. I'm not going to make a new slide. And then I wanted to show you something very important. These screen readers, you don't want to ever put on just a video, so you always want to link your video like this screen reader demo. If you just put a video in where you can actually see the video and you click on it to press play, the screen recorders don't recognize those, so the students won't even know that there's a video present. So you want to link your videos, and you don't want to just say click here, because if you just say click here, it doesn't tell them where they're going, what video they're going to watch. It just says click here, and they don't know where they're going, they don't know what to expect. So whenever you link these, you want to make sure that you make the link where they can see what they're going into. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So all you do is I'm going to come down here and make a new one. I'm going to say watch this video. And then I'm just going to say, let's say they're going to a video about, I'm going to do, I think I have a video pulled up here, the evolution of inclusion. We watched that video earlier. That's the name of the video, and all I'm going to do is highlight it here. And I'm going to come up here, I'm going to copy this video URL. I'm going to go back to the presentation, and then I'm going to go to Insert, come over here and go to Link. And then all I'm going to do is paste the URL I just got from the video and insert. And then you're going to see this. So now you're linked to that video, and they know that the video is called The Evolution of Inclusion, and that's read out to them, and they know exactly where they're going. They know what the video is going to be about. It's very informative. Now, if you notice, after all my videos, I kind of have the URL placed out here. You don't want to leave that linked, because that doesn't make any sense to someone that's hearing a screen recording. That it just reads out the URL to them, and it's very confusing. So what I leave them there, though, because if someone does print this PowerPoint off, the links aren't going to work anymore. So they're going to miss out on these videos. So if you leave the URL there, they can type in the URL to their search bar and still find the videos. But I want to show you how to remove the link from those URLs. So basically, I just put that in there, paste it, and when you click, it puts the URL. So you don't want that there. So all you have to do is right-click on that and just go to Remove Link, and that removes that link for you, and you are all set to go. Okay, so I'm just going to erase that real quick. So that's how you make an accessible link, and it's very important. Please remember, don't use click here. Use the title of the video so that they know where they're going and they know what they're watching. So now I just want to show you guys how to check your PowerPoint for accessibility. So there's one thing I haven't showed you that, and that's how to, if someone is looking at these slides, they can't see these pictures. So what you want to do is put in a description of these pictures. And I've done that in a couple other places, and I'll show you how to get to that. I've left a couple of these non-described so that we can use another feature later. So I'm going to come right up here to where this one is, and I know this one's described. So all you do is click on the picture, and you go to Picture, and there's a little alt text right here. So you're going to click on the alt text, and then it allows you to put a description in right here. And I just said depiction of people sitting around a table collaborating. because that's what the picture shows. You don't have to give detail, like they're different colored people, there's puzzle pieces, all that stuff. And you don't have to say it's a picture because the software, the screen reading software, will tell them that it's a picture, so you don't have to reiterate that. You just tell them what's in the picture. A very short description, depiction of people sitting around a table collaborating. Okay, so that is how you do the pictures. And now you've finished your PowerPoint. You're not sure if it's super accessible, but you want to check. So then all you have to do is go to Home. I'm going to go to Review the PowerPoint. And then you just go to Check Accessibility. So I'm just going to check accessibility, and it says, okay, picture 7 and picture 5, you need to look at those because something's not accessible about them. So I'm just going to click on picture 7. So what's wrong with this picture is I didn't give it a description. So now I'm just going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to click on the picture. I'm going to go to Picture, Alt Text. And then this is the description it kind of puts for you, a picture containing QR code. That doesn't make any sense to someone that they don't know what that picture is. So all I'm going to do is highlight this and get rid of it. And we're going to say, I'm going to say example, or we're going to say diagram comparing and contrasting diversity and inclusion. So that's what the picture's showing. It's comparing and contrasting diversity and inclusion with puzzle pieces. So they get an idea of what the picture is, and they're not really missing out on it. Now, whenever I present this to someone, and if someone in the class is visually impaired, I could describe this picture in more detail and go over kind of the difference in diversity and inclusion. Because when you present this PowerPoint, like we did earlier, I described that diversity is a bunch of these pieces that are all different, but they're not connected. And then inclusion is a bunch of these different pieces that are connected. So I will describe the picture when the presentation happens. But just if they're clicking through, just make sure that they see that they have a descriptor of what this picture is so they're not confused. Okay, so that's all done. That's on there and all set up. So now I go back. I go to picture 5, and I didn't describe this one, so I'm just going to click on it again. I'm just going to go back over this real quick. Alt text. I'm just going to, again, a picture containing timeline. That doesn't really describe that picture, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm just going to say, let's see, accessibility. Accessibility diagram. Actually, I'm going to say artistic representation. You know what, I'm going to change that. Artistic representation of accessibility. That way they kind of know what's going on there. It's just an artistic representation. There's no real, it's just a pretty picture. It's just something to give everyone to look at, but it's not really it's not contributing to the information, and they can see that there. Okay, so that's all done. So we're just going to go here and say recheck. It says there's the accessibility for this PowerPoint's all good to go. There's a couple more features I want to talk about here. So for people that are visually impaired, those screen recording systems do a great job with lists. So as you can see throughout this PowerPoint, I use lists a lot with the bulleted points. And as that screen recorder goes through, it would come to this slide and say list 1 through 4. And then it would start listing off those and reading them to them. So it's very easy for them to navigate lists, how the program is set up. But the very important thing is when you do the list, don't just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually use the automated setup here that we see up here, the 1, 2, 3. If you actually use that and then the bullets here, that is the coding that I was talking about earlier that the software can recognize. If you don't use this and just number without that, the software won't actually understand that it's a list that goes together. So it would be a little confusing, or it wouldn't just be as clear. And then another thing I wanted to show you down here was for visually impaired audiences. So reading, because of COVID, we're living in a more remote world. We can teachers make presentations. This is supposed to be as teachers. Make presentations that are accessible to all students. So I underline and capitalize this, but to a visually impaired person, that's not going to mean a whole lot. So I also put a little asterisk beside this so that they know I am stressing all, and they'll know this whenever the screen recorder reads out that little asterisk sign. But if that was in bold red, they wouldn't see that. So whenever you're trying to make things for your classes, maybe a schedule or something like that, and you are stressing something, just make sure that it's not just underlined or in bold or something like that. You put some indicator that you're stressing that word that the screen reader will read out, like an asterisk is a great example. Or right before the word, you could just put in parentheses important information and then list the important information after that. Just a way so when the screen reader is reading it out, they know that it's important information without having to visually see the important information. So those are just some tips and tricks to make sure that your PowerPoint is accessible to all students. And if you have any questions, please just ask them and I'll get them answered for you. Thank you for listening.